back to our YouTube channel. I'm Lynn.
I'm Amelie.
I'm Igalis.
I'm Anna, and this is our series,
What Is?
Today we'll be talking about Brexit.
Now, what is Brexit? Let me explain it to you. Brexit stands for British Exit. It all started in 2016 when the people of the UK voted, and 52% decided to leave the EU, and 48% voted to stay. Brexit has been delayed 3 times. They were originally set to leave on the 29th of March. Then it was set back to the 12th of April, since they still have not left. They have a 6-month extension. They are set to leave on the 31st of October. The UK is complaining about the rules of the EU and the rules that they have made them follow. They have to come to the conclusion that leaving the EU would be beneficial for the UK, but it's not beneficial to us. But some people still don't want to leave the EU, and Great Britain is considering having another vote.
Now, you may be wondering what the difference between the UK, Great Britain, and England is. Well, I'm here to explain it to you. Let's start with the United Kingdom, which is basically a country of countries. And the largest of these countries is England. And because of its size and popularity, it is normally confused to the United Kingdom, or the UK. England also contains London, the de facto capital city. To the north of England is Scotland, and to the west of England is Wales. The UK also contains Northern Ireland. The full name of the UK is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I know, pretty long. Now time to explain Great Britain, which is more of a geographical term than a political term. The term Great Britain is used to refer to England, Scotland, and Wales, therefore purposefully excluding Northern Ireland. This information was brought to you by the YouTube video, The Difference Between the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and England Explained, made by CGP Grey YouTube channel.
I know we've mentioned the EU quite a bit, so don't you think we should explain what the EU is?
It's for the sake of the kids. Definitely not for us.
Right, sorry kids. The European Union is made up of 28 countries, which include the United Kingdom, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, Ireland, Greece, Portugal, Spain, Austria, Finland, Sweden, Cyprus, Czechia, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia. The simplest way to put it is they made this union to prevent something like, I don't know, maybe World War II. Because then again, that's when the EU was proposed and created, after World War II. So they have been working together just fine to keep peace and harmony within their region. According to Europa EU, every country that's a part of the EU has to pay membership dues to be able to vote on laws and regulations for the Union. For example, the majority of the countries have the currency of euros, except for Bulgaria, Croatia, the UK, Denmark, Hungary, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and Sweden. This makes things a tad bit difficult for traveling citizens in the EU. Let me go into that a little more. So let's say you're a citizen of France and you want to work in Portugal. That's completely fine with the EU. The great thing about their citizenship is that if you are a citizen in any of the countries involved in the EU, then you're able to move freely around every single country in the EU as well. There are no border checks, no citizen check, and you can just walk through all of Western Europe, not needing to worry about a thing, as if you're still a part of your home country. So there's the EU.
Now wait a minute, why is the UK leaving anyways?
There are 2 main reasons why the people of the UK chose to leave the EU. One big factor is cooperation. For example, the financial crisis that took place in 2008. Unemployment rose and debt started to become a major problem. Therefore, big wealthy countries must aid lesser countries and help them become financially stable again. The second reason is immigration. While it is true that times have changed, people around the world still like to stick to their origins. According to Vox.com, the UK foreign-born population doubles from 1993 to 2014. From 1994 to 2014, Brits have slowly started to express their feelings about immigration in the UK, and slowly it started to become a norm. But Brits don't want immigration. Therefore, they decided to have a referendum, and now we're here.
Basically, if the UK decides to do a no deal, which means the UK would leave the EU with no agreements about their relationship in the future, the UK would leave, but the only problem is this was supposed to happen March 29, 2019. What day is it?
It's May 13th.
You see my point. This no deal agreement could happen if politicians can't agree on what to do next, but this is definitely not what both parties are looking for. According to the UK Times and BCC News, there is also an agreement called the Withdrawal Agreement, which includes no major changes between the UK and the EU. It only covers such matters as money, citizens, border arrangements, and dispute dissolutions. It also contains a transition period and an outline of the future relationship between the UK and the EU. Now, this sounds like a fair deal, but politicians have voted against it 5 times. Now, it sounds to me like the UK shouldn't leave the EU. Now, as for immigration, Prime Minister Theresa May have stated the free movement, which is a policy that allows citizens from a member state to live and work freely around the EU, as reported by the Week Business website. Unfortunately, this will end when the UK leaves the EU. The UK is correctly home to around 3.6% of the EU's nationals.
Well, that isn't the only deal that politicians can make. There's also hard Brexit. Hard Brexit would establish that the UK leaves the EU and the EU's single market. Therefore, the EU would have to build a free trade deal with the EU without restrictions of tariffs. If the UK fails to have free trade with the EU, then imported goods will become a lot more expensive. According to Investopedia.com, quote, roughly 45% of the UK's exports are to the EU, while 50% of the goods it imports come from the EU, end quote. This all might still fail due to trade deals taking many years. The UK would have to trade with the EU and other countries under the rules of the World Trade Organization. If this happens, this is expected to have a negative impact on the country.
Hold on, there's still one more type of deal the UK could make with the EU. This deal would mean that Britain would still keep a close relationship with the EU, which would minimize the cost of Brexit as well as minimize any interruption that may occur between Britain's trade, business, and supply chain. The soft Brexit would basically mean that the UK will still be part of the EU's single market and customs union. However, the consequence of this would be that Britain probably wouldn't be able to trade with any other countries. This information was brought to you by The Economist.
Why should other countries like the US care about Brexit if it doesn't include us?
Well, it definitely affects us, since if a hard Brexit is voted on the US, businesses will be affected because it will become harder and more expensive to export goods between the UK and the EU. For example, Brexit might give New York a competitive advantage over the city of London.
Sexy. I'm not ready.
Well, it definitely affects us, since if a hard Brexit is voted on the US, businesses will be affected because it'll become harder and more expensive to export goods between the UK and the EU. For example, Brexit might give New York a competitive advantage over the city of London because the competitiveness to trade within the country has gone down. The United States bond with the EU will be harder to obtain since the UK will no longer be a part of the EU. Not only are the people within the EU concerned about the conflict concerning Brexit, but many common people here in the US are worried too.
After the vote, the euro dropped down 2% from $1.50 to $1.11. Then, doing this increased the value of the dollar. This just increased the stock market and makes it more expensive for the US to trade with the UK. The United States will also change after Brexit because of the special relationship between the UK and the US, as well as the fact that the UK is one of the strongest alliances with the EU, which will eventually lead to tensions between the EU and the US. Now, for immigration issues, without Britain advocating with Commonwealth countries in the EU, such as Africa, the Africa issues could result in an increase in environmental refugees, which could result in additional migration pressures in the US as well as around the world. This information was brought to you by prod.org and thebalance.com.
I hope this helped you understand what Brexit is and how it can affect us.
Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like these.
We will see you next time.
Bye!